Good morning. Good morning. I believe that we are now live. So, um, if you want to give it a few minutes, can you see that we're live? I can see that we're live.
Yeah, I can see that we're live. Yeah, it should be. We should be live. I mean, I'm looking quite grainy, but it should be visible on here.
I mean, I wouldn't worry about the grainy. It looks like you're on a trampoline. My camera's going like this.
No, you know, it's because I'm on a laptop. Let me just move away from it. So
It's like, yeah, I think the image is grainy. Steady there. Okay. That's what
it does. It looks like a very old school webcam.
And it's just
But,
like bouncing up and down as well. It's like, geez. Okay,
so
so
I'm in the middle of the sticks. So I've left London.
he's left London to join
Yeah.
the civil unrest. He wants to get closer to the action. He's like, London, come on, guys. Yeah.
You got to stop telling people that.
The summer of I predict a riot.
They're doing the arrest now, so you better be careful.
Well, I mean, what do you think's going to happen when you try to burn things down?
Well, it depends, because whatever you do when you try and burn things down doesn't seem to be anywhere near as severe as what happens if you try to stop people, providing people with the oil to waste burning things down. So
yeah, that's true. That is very true. I just want to make it clear because I've got a towel. I'm aware that I'm wearing a towel. I look a bit weird. It maybe looks like I'm sick. I am just that's a general condition. Okay, like I'm just generally sick of life and everything. But that's not why I have the towel. I went out for a run and I'm sweating like a pig. And I was just like, I'm going to come on camera and just look like really thing. So I've done this to just save myself some a little shred of dignity while I'm on camera because I don't have much, but the little that I have is going to be swept up and guarded by this towel. So that's why I have this. I'm not sick. I'm
to be fair, I hadn't fully noticed that you were wearing a towel. I just
wow. So my normal sartorial choices are so bad that I could just come out in a towel and they'll be like, yeah, that's it. Yeah. She looks like usual.
I thought it was a dressing gown, but I'm just in no position to question fashion
enough.
nowadays.
Yeah, I guess it could be. It's just like my shoulders are kind of. Look at that behavior. Look at that. Next, I'll be showing my ankles. Jesus, you slut! Get that away. Yeah. So what's been going on? What's in the zeitgeist? What are we talking about today?
Well, today we are still having our eye on the US elections and how that is changing. We have an update since then. Yes. I believe you want to talk about Kamala Harris picking her running mate.
Yes, so she has. So it's been really interesting. So Kamala Harris, because it's like comma, apparently. She has picked Tim Walz, who I believe is from Minnesota, and he is going to be her running mate. And Tim Walz has been, he wasn't really on a lot of people's radar until recently, where he came out and he described the Republican ticket as weird. And then he just kept saying it, and then everybody else started saying it. And it seemed like a good way to isolate the candidates of the Republican Party without actually isolating the MAGA crew. I mean, they isolate themselves, but it wasn't something that was an indictment of all of them. It was just like, oh, but those people are weird. They're weird. So that was his for many people outside of, I guess, Minnesota, that was the first time they kind of really got to know him with this weird thing. And then Kamala comes out and picks him. So it's been really interesting. He seems like just an American dad kind of a vibe. Like, I don't know, like that's just exactly what you'd expect. Like
the cartoon, or just, not like the cartoon,
not like American Dad, like not like American Dad. No, we're not getting that far. But like, just like, I bet he goes fishing or something. Do you know what I mean? And he was like the high school football coach, and just all the kind of like epithets and stuff that you expect of that they'd put in, like, I don't know, the Wonder Years, like the Wonder Years dad. Basically, like that's what he's like.
Yeah, he's had a couple meatloafs. I can see that about him.
Yeah, like he's like, my son is called Kevin Arnold and all this kind of stuff. So he was apparently like, he's done some like pretty good things. So he signed a bill, for example, that gave free breakfast and lunch to Minnesota school children. And I think he'd done, that was it. He was also, when he was high school coach, one of the, and this was, I think in the 90s, one of the students, the gay students, came and said that they wanted to like have some sort of straight gay alliance. And I think at the time, like, there were different homosexuality laws and whatever. And he knew
Mhm.
like what it would mean for a high school football coach to come out and be the faculty chair for that kind of alliance there. So he was chair of that.
Mhm.
So he's done some like solid stuff. I can see why she's picked him. He's a solid pick. But, and as I was saying to you, one of the interesting things that's come out of this that I'd noted, and I wouldn't have naturally noted this because I'm not the demographic. I'm not a white millennial woman, but like, I've seen a lot of white millennial women coming and talking about that he reminds them of their dad, and not in a way that he reminds me of American people's dad, but in a way that they were like, oh, that was my dad before he changed after like Fox News and Rush Limbaugh, and he was radicalized. And it's like, it was just really interesting moment for me because, as I said, like, I don't sit there and look at those people as natural victims or like really get involved in business that is, not my business. But it was just really interesting to get that insight into, oh, actually, yeah, there are a generation of people that would have been impacted by the introduction of, the Fox News, the Rush Limbaughs, the 24-hour news cycle, this kind of constant rhetoric that in many ways isn't dissimilar to, and I know the outcome was much worse, and it sounds really okay. In Rwanda, when they had the genocide, and when in the like little townships and where people live, they were constantly putting out like messages on a tannoy, like on a loop almost, about,
On radio, yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. That rhetoric,
Cool.
I don't think it's that dissimilar. I think Fox News is a kind of iteration of that. And I say that because I remember I went to Ghana, and don't hate me if you're Ghanaian and you listen to this. I went to Ghana in the year of return, and I can't remember where I was, but I was like near a beach, and then I was going back with the driver, and we're walking through like, I don't know what they're called, like a township or whatever. We're walking through and they've got these tannoys there, and it's blurting out something, but it wasn't in English. And I was like, what is it that they're saying? Because I was like, is it a hurricane warning? Like, what's going on there? And he was like, no, yeah, like I was like, should we be alarmed?
I'm out here, so we need to translate.
I mean, I don't know what's happening, but I'm like, these people seem very calm, and he seems very agitated on that tannoy, right? So I was like, what is really happening? And it was like, no, it's like religious stuff, the Bible and all that. And I was like, why is it on a tannoy? And he was like, yeah, they just do it constantly throughout the day. And I'm like, oh, like that. And that's what Fox News is, though. But that's what Fox News is. So we kind of, these people would look at that as like, oh my God, this is indoctrination, and wow, like, give people a break and whatever. It's, but that's essentially what Fox News is and has done in a different medium. They've glossed it up. They've put it on, they've put it so it comes through your screen and it's not on a tannoy in the street, but it's essentially the same thing. Do you know what I mean? If you're just always pushing this agenda, eventually it's going to break through, and it did.
Well, let's not forget that Fox News very recently had to do one of the biggest payouts in history due to their like editorial practices, because they had
Wow.
initially supported Donald Trump's claims of the election being fraudulent in
Oh,
2020.
I didn't know that then.
And
I didn't know that that was the outcome of it. I didn't know
yeah, so
that
they
they had that
accused them.
outcome.
Yeah, they said they had to settle for about, I think it may have been just shy of 800 million, because they had
Oh,
accused the
I was
manufacturer
affected
of the
by that. How
voting.
do I get on that class action?
Um,
I heard that
well, there
claim and
might
it
be another
really upset
one as well.
me.
There might be another one because there was a landmark lawsuit for Dominion, who had sued them. They'd sued them for over $1 billion, but they settled out of court for 800 million.
Okay.
But I think they may have another lawsuit pending. But it
Oh.
kind of put them on the ropes where they might have been damaged, because what they felt is that while folks were more than aware during the election that there had no interference had taken place, because they were afraid of losing market share to some of the newer, even further right stations like Newsmax and I think it's OAA. They allowed that to kind of perpetuate, and so they were sued by Dominion when they caused them to have to settle. But yeah, they, as well as where they've tried to make news into news entertainment, election interference is definitely not out of their wheelhouse.
No,
So
of course, of course. And I think also it's one of those things that they're calling, I think, what was it they calling him? Tampon Tim. Is it they were
Tampon Tim.
Tampon Tim? And I'm just kind of like, oh, because he gave feminine like he thinks that people should have feminine hygiene products. Like, if that's the worst you've got, babe, like, I mean, do better. Like, your VP candidate was said to have fucked a couch. Like, let's be real here. And actually, Tim Walz made a reference to it as well. Like, when he was giving I think it was one of his inaugural speeches, he came out and he was just like, yeah, these people are weird and whatever. And he was like, I can't wait to debate the guy if he'll get off his couch and debate me. And I was like, I told you, dad jokes. He's a dad. He's like a dad. And hi
Yes.
to Seek the Truth from Oklahoma in the USA. Sorry, I just saw a message coming up saying hello. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
'cause
just talking about couch fuckers.
it's the first I heard of it, to be quite honest. But I don't see it being a particular deal maker. But who knows when it comes to MAGA? Then there's I feel like if Donald Trump was revealed to have had sexual relations with a couch, then it'd be a lot more legitimized. I think it's a lot harder for
Oh,
JD Vance,
100%.
who while like they're trying to make references to Tim Walz being like, some people refer to him as a coward, despite the fact that he is a decorated military veteran, and calling him tampon Tim and accusing him of being a cuck and all of the other normal slurs. What is interesting is that JD Vance is already on the back foot because he's trying to appeal to what we know is a historically racist base, and his partner is an Indian woman, and he has a child called
He
Vivek. So,
Yeah,
well,
like I just don't think he gets it. So Trump came out yesterday and he gave an announcement or something on the steps of, was it Mar-a-Lago or whatever the hell his like place is called or whatever. And I actually thought he was going to get rid of JD Vance because I feel like that's not, again, like that's in his wheelhouse to do something like that. Like, you know what? This guy, I thought he would be good, but he's not good. He's not good. Actually, he used to hate me and I tried to give him a chance. And like, like, I just feel like that's the sort of thing that he would do. But I
okay.
also saw, and saw, so there was this guy and he was like, had all the Trump regalia, and he was like asking this question. He was like, I want to know what Trump is going to do for our kids who are like renting because it's so expensive and stuff like that. And like, to be honest with you, it was a good question. So I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know there were some of them that were like coherent. Well, I was like, okay, this is like a cogent sentence in everything, grammar on point. It was great. So Trump, I think, was on a phone or something. So he says, he goes, we're going to drill deeper. We're going to drill for oil. So I'm like, did the man ask about oil? He was like, yeah, that's what it is. We need to drill for oil, get more oil, and then it's going to be cheaper. And then everything else will just be cheaper. And I'm thinking, if the man can put together a real like statement like that, and how can he surely not see that the answer is bullshit? Like, would you not just at that moment go, the fuck are you talking about?
How did this person react though? Because I feel like for me, if I heard of someone who's been a businessman for over 20 years, maybe even over 30 years, who wrote a book called The Art of the Deal, and I ask about housing, and his reply is, "Yeah, man, we're going to drill some oil," I'd be like, "What? What's going on
But
here?"
they never
What?
go back to that. But they didn't, in the clip I saw, he didn't go back to him. But also just like, what? Like, why? And that's the thing with Trump. One of the biggest issues with Trump is that when he makes these stupid claims and he says the stupid stuff, like I saw him say something and then someone asked a question and he was like, that was a stupid question. It wasn't. No one says, actually, it wasn't a stupid question. What's the answer? Do you know what I mean? Like, and they, in a way that I don't see them letting anyone else off the hook, but they just seem to let him just say shit and like nobody challenges it. There's no challenge that's forthcoming.
This goes on the circles. Like even when he went to interview the black journalists forum, and they were like, "You said there's racist things. Why should a black person trust you?" And rather than
Yeah.
say something like, "I care about you. I'm a good person. I'm a good presidential candidate," he was like, "I don't think anyone's ever asked me a question as rudely as that before."
Listen, you
I'm
uppity
sure.
Negro. Okay, that's the point.
I'm sure the question. Are you aware that you have 34 counts of corruption on your
That could,
name? Like,
I mean, did you go to court, honey? I'm pretty sure that they were being nice to you. Like, so
Donald
anyway,
Trump's
talking
eyes.
about being nice and you joining, leaving town to go and join in the civil unrest. What's going on?
Well, yeah, I thought I'd be kind of boots on the ground and see what's happening with these race riots, especially because I think part of the difficulty in understanding the coverage is the fact that a lot of the mainstream media have tried to refer to these as as protests,
Oh,
which I
okay.
found very interesting. And
Mm.
obviously, I think there's been a lot of people that have had a lot of takes when it comes to these race riots that have been happening all over the country. But I think one of the things that have been most troubling is that, like, some of the way they've been talking about it in mainstream media is that they've definitely downplayed the level of violence and the racist rhetoric that has been accompanying these protests. Like, at this point now, people have kind of been like, it's protests, it's unrest, it's demonstrations. They might as well be like, it's a large scale pub crawl or, Caucasian carnival. Like, we're at the point now where
Caucasian carnival.
well, they got their flags, didn't they? And they're running around. So yeah, it's been interesting that the last couple of days the coverage has changed significantly to that right-wing publications, particularly the Mail and the Express and the Telegraph have been like people coming together to fight against racists, and these inexplicable actions by the far right have been thwarted by anti-fascists. And it's like these are people that you've been directly demonizing for the last 14 years, and now you've depended on them to bring civility back to the country, because a lot of the race riots, because this week alone I think it went from 30 to 100 of them being planned across the country, have been met by resistance from socialist, trade unionist, anti-fascist, communist groups. All of the groups that are regularly demonized in the media have come together to defend against racists throughout the country, and led a lot of people backing down. Like I think in Brighton, like seven brothers turned up,
Why
and
would you go to Brighton as well? Like, what did they think? Just go and
yes,
eat
they
some
must
donuts and chill, bro. Like, why are you going to Brighton of all places?
have, apparently some of them got met at the train by like drag queens right at the station. That was just like, yeah, on what are you
And
saying?
they could drag as well.
Yeah, hope you're not ready for a real drag race, because you're gonna get ducked down. And it's bad as well because drag queens, they duck you down in heels as well. So
Oh, for real, for real. And those stilettos will pierce right through your skin, my friend.
right, and they can do that, and they can also do it under the influence as well. Like these men will be a bit drunk and stumbling about, but they don't even mess with no drag queens who definitely know how to fight, even with the makeup on. So, but yeah, they've also, just as an update of how the riots have been taking place, is that first of all, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, who is known to idiots that pedestalize him as Tommy Robinson, is supposed to be receiving arrest for being in contempt of court. So he's currently ducking down, and he's out like myself but he's in Ayia Napa, you know, that great bastion of white Britishness. But he's now been complaining that, you know, his family, his children are crying, which he has put down to them being afraid of his arrest or being doxied. But I feel like Tommy Robinson's children probably cry on a much more regular
I
basis
feel like
for a
I'd just
reason.
cry knowing that he was my father. So I
Yeah,
think there are just
it's
tears
like
that
a
shed
your
on
dad.
daily for that, you know?
Yeah, because well, first of all, they're probably thinking, "What's your name, Tommy? Do you have a secret family we don't know about?" Because
Why
our
is my
surnames are
name
Jackson.
Lennon and
Why
your
does one
name
call
is
you?
Robinson?
Why do all these white board men come up to you and go, "All right, Tommy, it's like, do you have a secret family, or do we even exist? Is life a simulation, Dad?" Because also, apparently, we do not like non-white people, and we're in Ayia Napa in the summer, and there's loads of non-white people that come here to celebrate the
Yeah.
garage sound. So what's going on
I
here?
I think that like the whole thing as well, like with Nigel Farage and all of them tried to backtrack. Did Nigel Farage say, "Oh, I was misled by Andrew Tate" or something like that? I heard that he was like, "Oh, I was misled by Andrew Tate about the, you know, because the assailant in the murder of those girls, the three little girls that were killed, wasn't an immigrant and obviously wasn't Muslim and everything else and whatever." He was like, "Oh no, I Andrew Tate. What is? How is that your excuse for spreading this information?" Andrew Tate told me miss. It wasn't me. He said that to me. Like, are you okay, bro? You're a whole MP. Like,
Yeah,
what the hell is happening?
it's just like a whole new party. But then, you know, I mean, we are talking about the Reform Party, who we know some of their candidates don't even exist either. So it is surprising that Nigel Farage's actions of disseminating misinformation and leading to some of the biggest race riots in the UK for a very long time come from the result of whispers. As I said, we can't call them Chinese whispers because these guys hate Chinese people as well. But they've actually recently arrested the woman they claim is responsible for the initial tweet of this made-up name of Ali Al Shakti.
Yeah,
Turns out that she is a millionaire who lives in Cheshire.
good.
So
Thanks,
she's been
thanks for
arrested for.
help.
So her, like Stephen Yaxley Lennon, who has been allowing for the flames of racial prejudice to be fanned from the safety of Cyprus, she is living in a 1.2 million pound home in Cheshire, and despite
Oh, is she in
having all.
hold on, is she in £1 million home or is she actually a millionaire?
Well, I think she is a millionaire. One of the two in it. If they sold a house, which she might have to cover a legal fee, she'll be a millionaire very
Oh, I think
briefly.
all they
So
need to do is just make HMRC audit them. Trust me, then
yeah.
they'll be
You
crying.
know, it's
They'll
well, the
find
reason I bring up the fact that she lives in even a £1 million home, or she may or may not be a millionaire, is what she definitely isn't. Is one of the working class people who have been involved in these riots, and one of the and has the class status that people are using to almost kind of normalize or kind of empathize with the actions of these rioters. Because what I found kind of strange is that people have been like, don't make fun of them. They're working class and they've got genuine gripes and all the rest of it and blah, blah, blah. Which for me, I'm just, to be quite honest with you, see, I'm tired of us having to mollycoddle racists and be like, we've got to see where they're coming from. You know, a lot of these guys don't perform very well in school and blah, 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 blah,
And they
blah.
should.
And next to Caribbean boys, they used to perform second worst. I mean, like, I don't give a fuck. Like, we've had given these people enough time. Like, we need to stop talking as if it is like 1993, because we had similar kind of racial violence towards Stephen Lawrence, as we discussed last week, back in 93. And it's been a whole generation, a whole lifetime of people who've had access to information. We've literally lived in the information age. So if you want to find out who's been chopping your money, you can very easily find out, because it's been appearing in a number of publications. Now, for me, a lot of people have said like this is down to the conditioning and indoctrination that has taken place from a lot of right-wing press over the last 14 years, who have kind of bolstered the actions of the government by demonizing immigrants and particularly stoking more flames of Islamophobia. But for me, at the same time, you also say that these people can't read. So which one is it? Because they can't read the papers and find out this information. So that's not stopping them from thinking
I
thinking
just think
critically.
the idea is just a stupid one. I think that there are working class people in any society. There are working class people in this society, but you know what? A lot of people of color are also part of the working class community. So this idea that they're just inherently racist, I just reject that as well as a premise, because I think that when you found, for example, back in the day, when you found in the UK, way before Windrush, when there were escaped slaves that were hiding throughout London, they actually found a lot more compassion and help among working class people than they did among the elites that would try and send them back to the Caribbeans and the Americas to kind of be enslaved again. So this idea that just because they're working class, they're inherently racist or whatever is not true. There's always been a top down agenda to push policy, to push a certain kind of narrative, and to and that's happened in this country. It's happened in other countries. When slavery was abolished, for example, in the Americas, that's why they introduced the new Jim Crow and all of these other things to separate, and also the categorization of whiteness as a race. Whereas before, people were Italians and they were Germans and they were Polish and whatever, they became white to stop them joining with their other working class or the people of their class and forming a union and fighting against the elites, which because they had more in common with the people that maybe didn't look like them but were of the same class as them than they did with those higher ups. But if I say to you, actually, no, don't worry, you're poor, but you're not like them. You're white, you're like us. You just don't have enough money, and you can be like us. So this idea that it's something inherent within working class people is just bullshit, and I just reject that as a premise anyway. But I think there is this idea that actually sorry, not an idea, an agenda is what they do is they set this agenda that actually, yeah, you should have more because you're white and you're like us. You should be having more, and the reason we can't give you more is because of those people. So that's what they do, and there is a subset of that demographic. It's not all of them by any means, but there's a subset that go, actually, no, you're right, because there isn't. Otherwise, there's nothing else between you and I apart from the fact that I should have more, and I can't. And why don't I have more? So let me look at that person, and then they'll come up with these things and be like, oh, they've come over here and they've taken our jobs, but they're not working. Well, which one have they taken the jobs or they're not working? Oh, they've come out over here and they've got all the housing that we've got. And it's like, well, you just went and tried to burn down a hotel where asylum seekers are. So if they're in a hotel, they don't have council housing.
Yeah.
Like, which one is it?
It's also interesting as well, because a new part of the rhetoric has been like this idea of trying to postulate as being empathetic when they say like, oh yeah, we just want like all these English people that are homeless in the streets. It's terrible what's happening economically. Well, you know, a homeless person could have used a hotel room. So you burning it down don't make no sense. Now, if you'd said, can we dedicate a few rooms to the homeless and people that are struggling with either psychological trauma or like any kind of mental health, could we dedicate a floor to English people dealing with that? But they didn't say that. They were like, just burn the whole thing down. So again, they don't care about homeless people, nor do they care about creating any kind of structure that would address the housing crisis in the UK. And the truth is, like, while, yeah, like yourself, I don't subscribe to the idea that working class people are inherently racist. I think that you have a large amount of people that are very easily susceptible to being indoctrinated with an idea. And, you know, working within a capitalist system is going to create a certain level of entitlement, because that same racism is the basis for capitalism as well. And we see a lot of people struggling with that as essentially, because they'll be like, for me, there's been this gradual thing that's kind of built up. From Brexit, this is built up from the
Oh, I would
pandemic.
agree, but
Well,
I just but just as a question, Dane, and sorry to interrupt you, but I would say to you, in your working life, in your career, and I know we all grew up around the NF and stuff like that, and that's one part of it. But in your life, has it not been people of a more of a middle and upper class that are racist that have had an impact on you than working class, so-called working class racist people? Because for me
oh
personally, it has been 100%.
no, you make a very good point. Like, I definitely agree. Well, and this is the difference between racial rhetoric and actual racism that people
Hmm.
get confused by. Is that a working class person who is a product of indoctrination, or even what was now referred to as white culture, might say something like "Go back to where you came from." But as I hasten to remind people all the time, is that Theresa May is the one that destroyed people's documents from the Windrush, so that even if you were eligible to stay in the UK, you wouldn't be able to locate these documents. So they made it impossible for you to get. And it's middle class people that work in the government that are also failing to address and provide compensation for Windrush victims that have either died or suffered in absentia following deportation. And they also people like Swella Braverman, who I think was the foreign secretary at the time, but they basically closed that down now. So they've actually put a stop to the compensation scheme
Hmm.
for the Windrush victims. In the same way that I'm sure that the very clear subtext of racism that has allowed for the Grenfell disaster to take place
Hmm.
and for no one to go to prison has been completely orchestrated by middle class and more privileged racists. Even I found out as well from a cousin of mine. My cousin did his dissertation at Brunel University like maybe 20 or 15 years ago. And he said that 70% of all Black commercial loan applicants are rejected, which means, where there's been this rhetoric about Caribbean people almost trying to assimilate into British society, but not trying to aspire to transcend their
Hmm.
class status, is that there is already an institution that exists that has tried to impede that,
Hmm.
and something that's not really talked about a lot. So yeah, I completely agree that middle class racism and the people that perpetuate that system have had much more of a negative impact on my
Oh,
life than
100%. And actually the social violence that exhibits, and that that occurs um as a result of their rhetoric and their policy and their postulating, is actually much more insidious and impactful upon our lives than sorry, there's something on my screen, than the working class people, because I live among working class people, so I know working class people. Do you know what I mean? So like this idea that like these are the great people that are just going to bestow so much violence and whatever else like that, but actually, why are we not getting these jobs? Why are we not getting that? Like, why are we not being seen? Why what makes a difficult work environment? Because by virtue of the
yeah,
fact that you're saying these people are working class, actually, if you want to say that I can be more upwardly mobile in certain arenas, then who are the gatekeepers of that? It's not the working class white people that I live amongst. It isn't. So I don't accept that. And I also see that on the TV, and when they're discussing these, what they call the civil unrest or the protest, the language that they're using is emboldening the people that are on the streets, so that they can be used as a distraction, so that they can say, oh, I'm not racist, I would never go out on the streets and call someone a slur. Okay, cool, but you don't give that person a job. You don't listen to them when they have a real gripe about something. In fact, it was you guys that gaslit us for years, that when we were saying that racism was there a couple of years ago, you published a report and we're talking about racism is gone in this country. There is no racism here. Now all of a sudden you're pointing to these people and you're clutching your pearls. You're the problem. You're the problem, to be honest with
absolutely.
you.
Entirely, and the problem is that there's going to be no accountability, because the fact that it is known that the middle classes and upper classes are massively overrepresented when it comes to media, in terms of being in editorial or journalistic jobs, have been stoking these fires for years. They have been heightening this, had several opportunities to address the misinformation that was spreading prior to these race riots taking place, and have done nothing but encourage it. Even just down to outright lying, having a home secretary referring to like Pakistani grooming gangs being predominantly responsible for child
Mhm.
abuse, and then it turning out that that's not true, and not even backtracking on it to this day, and then having another sitting MP claim that he received his information from an influencer and not be reprimanded or not lose their job, but then also being platforms, because Nigel Farage was given more than £1 million to appear on I'm a Celebrity in order to legitimize his image,
But,
whereas
but that
Jeremy
but
Corbyn
this is the natural conclusion of all the things that the media have been doing, and they this is what they've been doing. They've been emboldening these people for years. For years, this has
yeah,
been happening. And even now, like, it's so funny. I took a picture of something. Let me just find the picture because I don't normally I don't buy newspapers. I think most people don't. Um, and now the Sun of all newspapers, right? The Sun now I saw on the front page it had anti-social media. It's got a picture of a guy in a tracksuit like throwing some rocks or something. Facebook and pals let liars incite violence on our streets. Are you okay? So now we're blaming social media. The Sun newspaper. Are you okay? Pot kettle black, honey. Please
Yeah.
stop. And they've got like the list of all the
Forget
social media tags, and they're like, yeah, it was those guys. They were the ones that spread it. Go back through the Sun front pages, and you will find exactly who's been spreading it, honey.
Yeah, or the Express or the Telegraph, where it's like, it's we're full, or migrants get free housing, like, or NHS, and they're taking all of these systems that working class people have fought for in order to create an infrastructure where they can have a comparatively better life to maybe a lot of their counterparts in other parts of the world. And these erosion of these services have all been attributed to migrants because of like tabloids like the Sun, who are owned by the same demon that owns Fox News, surprisingly. Who, on the one hand of their mouth is talking about, grooming gangs, corrupting young women, but then also have been publishing pictures of teenage girls topless since day
and
time
having
immemorial.
and having countdowns to them. Don't remember they used to
And
have
these guys
countdowns to
then
the
being,
age
yeah,
that they
legal,
could do that.
right,
Anyway.
as well as having like offering and having a classified ads at the back for people who are having a good time, and also encouraging things like mail order brides in some of these publications, and then being like, immigration is a problem, but when you lot
Yeah.
were selling Russian and Thai brides, it was cool though. So
Yeah.
how does
Yeah.
that
Well,
work?
as they say, bringing in immigrants to do the jobs natives don't want. So
Well, otherwise Nigel Farage wouldn't be married, would he? So
there you go. Neither will Trump.
no, there you
So,
go.
but yeah. So let's end on a lighter note. The Olympics.
Yeah,
The Olympics,
yeah,
darling. You know what? Actually,
yeah.
this isn't light, but it's actually really funny to me. So Noah Lyles? Is that his name? Lyles.
No loss,
So
yeah.
he won the 100 meters, right? And then the 200 meters, I'm trying to find the guy's name. The 200 meters was won by not him. I was just trying to find the gentleman's name. Okay, here it is. Let's see later Tobago. Let's see later Bogo won the 200 meters
Oh,
gold,
for
right?
Botswana, yes.
Yeah. So there's this. So I found this funny and I found it really cute. So they're in this press conference and they've said to him, like, Usain Bolt was there and he was like the face of track and field for like ages because he was like winning all 4 medals and whatever. So they asked him, was like, let's see. They were like, oh, do you think that you're going to be the face? And he was like, no. For me, I can't be because I'm not an arrogant and loud person like Noah. So for me, Noah is the face of athletics, right? And so like everyone was really quiet and like no one was like this. But like I feel like it was just a language thing. I don't think he was trying to throw shade because do you know when he's spoken, but when spoken to people that English is not their first language. So like because there are words like even like for example, I remember speaking to back before I was speaking to somebody a French, and they were like, oh, that's really impressive, and it was a really bad thing, but they were trying to translate from a French word, which c'est impressionnant, like it leaves a big impression on you, not that it's impressive in a good way. So I feel like he said arrogant because he maybe felt like, oh, he's more extrovert than me and like more outgoing, so he would be a better face.
Yeah.
He was like, no, he's arrogant and he's loud. And so they were like, what the hell? Oh, poor thing. I genuinely don't think he was meant it to be shady because he didn't even say, like the way he was like, no, because I'm not arrogant or loud or whatever. And to be fair, like even if he didn't mean, I definitely genuinely don't think he meant to be shady, but I feel like Noah has been like quite arrogant and loud, and like you know what, just admit it. Like, cool, you won the 100 meters. Like, me too. I would, but it was just like how everyone's like, oh, look how he's being so rude, and I was like, I genuinely don't think he meant it like that. I think he just meant that he's like an extrovert and he's got that big character. So I'm not. He's like, I'm not that kind of a person or whatever. So that was something that I thought was really quite funny.
I also feel like if English is not your first language and you're learning about Americans, the people are teaching about nationalities, there'd probably be some associated synonyms that they would have taught you at the same time as well, and been like, what are Americans like? And everyone's like,
Yeah,
outgoing,
but like
arrogant.
But you know what? There's some things that have negative connotations in one language that don't carry the same connotation. So if you just translate it from one to the other, it's not necessarily going to carry the same like weight or not. So like if you say like maybe saying I don't know whatever language that he speaks as a first language, but you know maybe arrogant there does it just means that you're really proud. You're like a proud person, which you know like but not in a bad way. So he's like oh you know he's just like quite loud and he's quite you know like when to be fair, they need to stop doing this. But like, you know, when you go to the Caribbean, they're like, "Oh, you're getting fat," and they're like, and you're like, actually, I thought I'd lost weight," and like, and it's kind of like
Sure,
they're not even
there's a lot
taking it like it's supposed to be such a bad thing. They're just like object. Oh, you've just oh,
that's
you're
so
looking
true.
fat today.
Yeah.
Like, oh, bitch, like
Outside of the West, people don't tend to leverage weight in the same way as well. In a way that is needed for people to find more use of subtext or more different type of synonyms to describe somebody who's putting on weight, because I think that weight is something that's very binary outside of like Western countries, and so it's not able to be leveraged as much. So even when somebody cares about you, if you're in somewhere like China, they'll be like, "Hello, beautiful, you've gotten fat. I still love you." Whereas we've so many other words. So I think that's what it comes down to, is that like we tend to pad things up, particularly in like the UK and America, probably for more marketing purposes, where we might be like, "Hey, this is for curvy people," whereas in like China or in the Caribbean, they'll be like,
no, they'll just go
"Wear
straight for it.
this. You're fat, but
Mhm.
you know this will look good on you."
Yeah.
And so I totally get it. That he may have definitely been arrogant, because that's how he perceives arrogance to be, is being loud and being boastful, but
I
then
don't
not
think
necessarily as a
his intention was
connotation.
bad. I don't think it was with malicious intent there. He's
There's
like
no malice behind it. That's just people calling it how they see it. So
yeah, I thought that was quite funny. I also you know what, I'm not even going to speak about Michaela Skinner just because I don't want to bring in the negativity of. I mean, you could do that, but I've got something cute to end on. So
no, I mean I don't speak about it much either. I think that success is kind of the best revenge, and Simone Biles continues to show people like KKK Kayla whose
yeah,
levels and who's not levels. Really, I'd rather focus on herself and like Brazilian Rebecca Andrade, and third gymnastics. So they had an
Jordan
all-black podium
Charles,
for the first. Yeah,
Jordan
Jordan
Charles,
Charles. So yeah,
yeah,
Biles Charles and
Charles,
Andrade
Charles
having
and
the first.
Andrade. Yeah, I love it.
And yeah. So it was all to the Bain first all-black gymnast podium. And yeah,
And
Michaela, you can stay
it
hating on
was just
that.
really lovely. I think that like one of the things about Simone Biles is she's just a really good sportswoman, like in terms of like her ethic and like her approach to work, but also just like her inclusivity. Like you heard there was clips that I saw going around from I think the Chinese camp where they were like, "Oh, go and get dressed," and she was like, "No, but I wanted to take a picture with Simone Biles," but it was in like I don't know, maybe Cantonese or Mandarin or whatever, and someone had translated it and saying like, you know, even all the other gymnasts are fan of hers and whatever. And I think
Yeah.
that's just like she's done what Serena did in tennis. Like she's just taken the sport to like a whole nother level and done it in a way like I also love that she's not being fake humble about it. Like she's like, I'm owning that shit.
Mhm.
Like I worked hard. I'm that bitch.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I'm the GOAT. And I respect that because she has worked hard and why shouldn't she sit there and claim her accolades and everything? She's done something that nobody else. She's got so many, you know, moves named after her, like and also she's just so awesome. I think she just really is just really, really awesome. And it's really funny because like obviously this Kayla Skinner has come out and been like, oh well, you know, can she tell people to stop bullying? And someone said, please, she can't even get people to stop bullying her husband. How is she gonna get them to stop bullying? It's so true. It's so true. And I was like, oh, you know what? To be fair, honey, just stop talking. Like, no one cares about you anyway. You know? So
Nobody cares about you. This is what's insane. If you
like,
want to
just
know,
go away.
which nobody cares about at all. None of us cared in the first place. I genuinely didn't. I never heard of her. Like so far as like controversy in American gymnastics, it's again the biggest scandal I've ever heard of was Simone, which is something that Simone Biles herself actually exposed, and even then, never heard Michaela saying a word about it. So yeah, I think Simone is a wonderful athlete, and I think for me, one of the things that stands out is that it's an athlete that uses their athletic prowess and platform to make other people feel better about themselves within that same sport as well as attracting new audiences to the sport of gymnastics in general. And yeah, just doing what Tiger Woods did, but not taking the time to be like, by the way, I'm not black. So I fully support it.
So there's also, have you
And,
seen?
Simone Bowser's husband seems like a nice guy as well. He's super supportive. He's out there as well. Both him and Snoop being as encouraging as
Snoop
possible.
has been like, this is going to be renamed as the Snoop Olympics. Like, it literally will be like when Snoop hosted the Olympics in Paris. Like, it just really is, because he's out there. He's linked up with his old pal Martha Stewart. They're out there just doing bits, and like, really, he's been iconic here. And I just was like, why the hell is Snoop there? But I've no idea why they've landed on Snoop. But it just seems to make a lot of sense for some reason. Like, it's one of these things that I'm like, I don't even know why he's there, right? But I appreciate that he is. You know, you're like, we just don't question it. Shh. He's just shh. It's just Snoop, baby. It's Snoop.
Because doesn't Snoop also go to Wimbledon as well?
I don't know. Snoop is everywhere. If you go to India, you'll see like videos and adverts. Like, Snoop is everywhere. Like, if you've ever got time to go down a rabbit hole and see all the videos and adverts, Snoop has done like things in all countries, like South Korea, like everything. Well. He's just got things everywhere. Like,
that's what it's supposed to be. It's almost like he's doing rap semi-retirement, because Snoop is a grandfather, but he's doing it in the best way possible. He's been able to, I hope, eat very healthily off of his back catalogue and has access to his publishing, but he's still being a collaborative artist and stuff as well. And it's a great use of a brand that he is transversing the planet, spreading all of the stickies to the ickies, and making everyone feel like they can achieve their dreams. So, maybe if things on the current trajectory they're going on, maybe Snoop could potentially become a presidential candidate at some point himself.
Oh,
which, I mean, you're saying, oh, please, but keep in mind that the previous president, 2 presidents ago, was also a reality star, and Snoop has never gone bankrupt since I checked.
I mean, and he did bust case on his one. He did bust case, so
He did, so nobody else died. So yeah.
So finally, I mean, I don't know if you've got anything else, but just quickly before we wrap up, have you seen there's an image of Zhao Yakin? Well, she was one of the gymnasts. So on the beam, loads of people, the beam was really slippery. So like the top 4 people like fell off. Simone Biles fell off. Everyone fell off. And they ended up, I think 2 Italians won. One came first and one came third. And then there was like a little Chinese girl that came. And then, they're doing that whole let's bite the gold thing. She's like, oh. And she just puts it up, and it's just the cutest thing as well. She's like, I've no idea what's going on here, but they're biting, so I'm biting too. And she's like, yeah, okay, here we go. And I just think it's been really cute. I think there's been a lot of things that have been really cool about this Olympics. A lot of things have been really weird. It was really sad about Shelly-Ann Fraser not getting to see her run for the last time in the Olympics.
Yeah.
That sucked a lot. And if it is to do with the French not letting her through the gate, like I think there's some back and forth about whether that is the kind of real reason that she didn't compete. And if it is, it's so French. It's so fucking French. That's such a French thing to do. Like, I just, anyway, that's me.
Which is very frustrating. But no, I just want to finish on continuing with the gymnastic successes. Carlos Yulo won his 2nd Olympic gold medal in 2 days. So he's an Olympic gold medalist twice over for the Philippines. I think he's made history there as being one of the first Filipino athletes to win gold for the country. And as a result, he has been greatly rewarded by his countrymen. I think he's been given about 150 grand as a prize for winning the gold medals. He's also been given a 3-bedroom condo as well back home. And probably one of the best prizes that due to a few restaurant chains and a few restaurants showing solidarity to Mr. Yulo, he's going to have free ramen for life.
That alone is getting me out there training, because I just so you know this, I've thought about it, and I've been watching the Olympics on and off, not as much as I have in previous years, to be fair, but I thought about it and I was like, oh, actually, I think I could do this. Right. So no, I've been thinking about this, and I think because I was like, hold on, I've got 4 years, right? And I was thinking about like, what could I do? And I'm not gonna do running. I'm too old. My knees are not gonna keep out, and I'm not gonna do that for 4 years. Like, that's just not gonna be possible. But shooting, right? Think about this. If I quit my job, okay, what else am I gonna do? Quit my job and spend like 5-6 hours a day shooting for the next couple of years. Of course I can get really good, like shooting or archery, because then when my weight fluctuates, it doesn't really make a difference. I just need to hold up my hand and be shooting, right? And so I'm thinking I could come with I could be the next like turkey guy, like the turkey guy that just came and was like silver. Yeah. I feel like this could be me. So watch this space. In 4 years, I think shooting or maybe curling, but I think shooting I'm gonna go for that because it just seems cooler. So Watch this space. I could be an Olympian in 4 years. Where are we? LA as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think LA is the next
great
Olympics.
place to go. I'd like to maybe do the same. I think I'd more train in kind of Snoop's kind of mascot role.
Right.
So
Okay.
working
That
on
makes sense.
working on my encouraging dancing,
Yeah.
cheerleading. Yeah, just kind of just grooving in the stands. I think I could definitely
That
do that
makes
as well.
sense. You know, and
Yeah,
I wasn't I think that's a good aim for you because it's like more of an all-rounder, whereas I feel like I
yeah,
wanna just for the next 4 years, like, dedicate myself to just a life of shooting. So, and
good.
that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
I feel like
So
you've got a good grounding being from South London as well. That
thank you.
you
It's
know,
on brand for us over here. You know, next thing after I do that, I'll transfer those skills and see if I can get a part in Top Boy or something. Top Boy Future Edition, whatever it's going to be by then. It'll be the toppest boy. Okay,
top man, but it's like an
top man.
economic, economic documentary on the death of the high street. Pow, pow, pow.
Look, it'll work. It'll work. I've got it planned out, so it's going to be fine. So yeah, so that's about it. I think. Yeah. Where can we find everybody? Where can we be found, and where can we find people?
We can be found by googling us and find us on all the good socials.
Do
Myself
not
being
Google
Dame.
me. Those allegations are false. Okay.
Either, to be honest with you guys, just you can follow me online and find out about some more upcoming gigs. Got a few shows coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'll be gigging around London and also around the Brighton area, so I'll update the website and people can find out more about that. And I've also very recently released another podcast called Citizen Dane, where we just discuss some of the concerns within the entertainment industry and the world in general. So we're just acting locally but thinking globally, so people can check that out. That's available on Spotify at the moment as well. So yeah, until then,
Perfect.
just
Okay.
on the breakfast
And
banter.
I can be found in Burgess Park. No, I'm joking. I can be found
Training
screaming,
for the LA Olympics.
feeding the ducks. So no, I can be found on Instagram and what else am I on? Oh, TikTok. I'm on Instagram and TikTok as the Reluctant Accountant. I'm also on YouTube as the Reluctant Accountant, and I too am. I have a podcast that's coming out on September the 2nd. So if you follow me on the social medias, the others, you'll be notified of that, and it will be the Misinformation Podcast, and it's going to be amazing, amazing. You know what? That is not like and it's not an advertising guarantee, so you can't sue me if you don't find it to be amazing, but just pretend that you did. But yeah, I'm just about I'm in the zeitgeist, so like yeah, just say hi. And also just I wanted to address something because as we've been talking, I've had a barrage of messages come through from somebody in Chicago who's like, why won't you debate me? Why? Because I'm doing a show, my darling. Like, I appreciate that you've got all these things to say, but like, I haven't come on to debate people that we can debate. Send me a DM. Like, I'm not afraid to have a conversation, but I'm not even joking with you. There's like, hold on, how many? Oh my God, there's about
What time is it in Chicago right now?
uh,
What
what's
time is
that?
it in Chicago right now?
I don't know. I don't know why he's not asleep, but and I appreciate you joining me. But there were so many messages. I'm just like, I actually am doing an actual thing, so I can't, like I can't just sit there and go, oh well, let me debate you and the things that you've come up with. But if you would like to do that, and if you would like to come on camera and not have an AVI, like you would like to be a real person, I'm quite happy to have a discussion with you. But I just wanted to address that because it's just like he was just arguing with himself at some point. He's like, why won't you answer? And I'm like, well, because oh, sweetheart, I'm on the telly. So mummy's on the telly. All right, darling. So so that's it. I just wanted to address that, and I'll leave that there. Let's all get on with our days.
No,
And if you're in the US,
no,
good
that's
night, and to everyone else, good morning.
or good morning, depending on where you
Yeah,
sit along these lines as well. But if anybody is interested in having debates with myself and Z, then please do send us a message and we can set that up properly. Because it's a lot hard to hear you when we're in the middle of a live and you're just screaming into the abyss, hoping that we see you. But thank you for continuing to join us on the live and supporting us for breakfast. That's leaves me to say thank you to Z and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
absolutely. Bye bye.